What's going on, everyone? So welcome to my latest video. This is obviously part of a series where I focus on specific Best Picture nominees from said year and rank them from worst to best. Done years in the past, such as 2000, 2001, and of course, you clicked on this video, so you know it. This time around, I am focusing on the Best Picture nominees from the year 2002, and I'll be ranking them from worst to best. Now, there were 5 Best Picture nominees from 2002, so I'll be ranking it from 5 being the worst to 1 being the best, and of course, my humble opinion. And I will, of course, be looking forward to hearing your guys' thoughts on your ranking for said Best Picture nominees down below. But guys, enough exposition. Let's get started. So, kicking things off with number 5, we have Chicago, which I know for many is too low. I personally wasn't a huge fan of Chicago. Like, I saw it one time and I quite liked it. I found it to be stylish. But then I revisited it a second time years later and I really wasn't a big fan of it. I found it to be kind of disappointing. It's a film that should work for me because, again, I do like musicals and I do think that the style is quite fascinating. But just upon rewatch, it just didn't really hold up. That's why I have it as my number 5. But that being said, I can definitely respect and understand why some of you might have this up higher, because I definitely know that there are a lot of people that quite liked this film. I just unfortunately wasn't that individual upon second viewing. But yeah, my number 5. Next up, my number 4 is Gangs of New York. This is a film that, let me just say this, I want to have it up higher. I really do. I actually gave it a second chance a couple years ago. It's just a film that it doesn't come together. It's got some amazing things. The opening scene, Daniel Day-Lewis's incredible villain performance. But here's the thing. Then you have other things such as the romance between Leonardo DiCaprio's character and Cameron Diaz's character. It just doesn't work, and it feels very flabby in terms of the pacing. Makes the tone feel a bit off. And also, in terms of the pacing, it also makes the film feel longer than it is. And it's frustrating, too, because there are so many sequences that don't feel too long, because Scorsese's great with pacing usually, but it's just, unfortunately, because of the focus on the romance, I just thought it really hampered the movie. And it's also just so frustrating because, again, you have such a great opening, and then you also have such a great ending. Like, the ending, the last scene, that whole montage, I thought was amazing. But it's just everything in between that just doesn't quite work. And I also just think that it's a shame, too, because Daniel Day-Lewis, like I said, his performance is incredible, and I can't emphasize that enough. I really liked his performance, which is why I want to have this higher. Like I said, I want to, but it's a very flawed film for me. And yeah, that's why it's at my number 4. It's a shame. Next up, my number 3 is The Hours. So I liked this film. I liked it. I know some people might see it as just, like shameless Oscar bait, but, I guess I took the bait because I quite like this movie. I found it to be very consistent. Really good performances. Philip Glass's score is beautiful. The messages, the themes, the heart of the film, it's all in the right place. And just, I found myself quite engaged by this movie. By no means is it like a great film, but it is a good film. And I have truthfully been wanting to revisit this recently because, again, I do have fond memories of when I saw this, not too long ago. But it's a good film for sure, and that's why it's my number 3. Next up, my number 2. This is a film that's going to be for a lot of people their number 1, and I definitely get that. But my number 2 is The Pianist. I like this film. This is a good film. It's very hard to watch. It's very well acted. It feels very detailed, in terms of the production design, the costume design, really transports you back to this time period. It being hard to watch, I think, is probably why it didn't win Best Picture, because especially for some Academy voters, I'm sure that they were like, well, we gave Schindler's List Best Picture, years ago. But if The Pianist had won Best Picture, I definitely would understand why, because I do think it is a necessity for people to watch. I think where this film falls short for me is that while Schindler's List, I find myself wanting to constantly revisit just because of how great it was and how emotionally hard-hitting it was, I just found myself, when I watched The Pianist years ago, I just found myself to be kind of distant towards the actual characters themselves. Again, maybe upon rewatch, I'll think differently, but I still really like this film. I still give it a very high rating, and I still think that it's good. It's just, I haven't wanted to revisit it, and again, maybe that will change, over time, but, that's why it kind of, is my number 2 slot instead of my number 1. My number 1, though, on the other hand, is something that I have seen quite a bit, and, a lot of people might say I'm a fanboy, I don't care, but my number 1 is Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. This is the weakest entry, in my opinion, in the trilogy, yet it is still a great film. And it is also a film that has one of the best battle sequences you will ever see. On top of that, it's got really good character development. Introduces a lot of characters, I might add, that also have really compelling arcs. And just like in The Fellowship of the Ring, it also has an ending that, despite being a middle chapter, the ending still feels self-contained. And I absolutely love that about this film. And I have so much respect for this film. It somehow manages to have a battle sequence that, is incredible, but also going back and forth between that and then trees talking. And it never feels silly. It feels very grounded in the world of this universe. And I absolutely love that. I think personally, if you haven't seen Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, I would highly recommend it. It is a great film. And I mean, it did win 2 Oscars, but I couldn't have seen it win Best Picture in this year, despite me loving it the best of the 5. But just again, because it's a middle chapter, and on top of that, they knew that there was going to be one more Best Picture. Well, not only one Best Picture that was going to come up, in terms of the third entry, but they also knew that they were going to be able to reward it. But also, I feel like Chicago and Gangs of New York were the more heavy hitters in terms of being the front runners. But nonetheless, I can definitely respect other people's lists because, again, 2002, I feel like is a year that it's going to be different. Like, I guarantee you, when I look down in the comment section, I guarantee you everyone's going to have different ranking for this year. It's just one of those years. But speaking of which, I look forward to hearing your guys' thoughts in the comment section below of your ranking for the 2002 Best Picture nominees. And guys, once again, thank you very much for watching. I appreciate you guys' support, and don't forget the subscription if you haven't done so already. Notification bell. Follow me down on Letterboxd, and I will catch you guys later.